Okay, I'm going to do a video here about locations on Google Maps from which some of the clips that you can find in the news were filmed of the UPS plane crash in Louisville, Kentucky. First, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how to use Google Maps if you don't know. So right now I'm in what's called 3D mode on the bottom right corner here. It says 2D right now. If we click on it, it goes to 2D. But right now we are in the three-dimensional mode, which means that as we move, we can change the pitch, we can change the yaw of this, and I'll tell you how to do that in just a moment here. But some of the components to look at here, this is in the URL, this is the actual location in GPS coordinates of below where I am on the map. So as I move, actually, that changes. Those numbers change. As I move forward, this one's going to change the most because we're going mostly south. If we move this way, like east, this number changes more because this is the longitude right here. So that's what GPS coordinates are, latitude and longitude. If I take and I copy these and I go like this, Control V, so I went Control C, another screen when I highlight it. Now I press Control V and enter. I paste it in here. It's going to find where I am on the map. This is in Louisville, Kentucky, at the Louisville International Airport, also I think called Muhammad Ali Airport. They probably said that so that, some people might have known the name of it, but at first they wanted to not have as many people congesting this area. So in the original report that I first saw this in, they said Muhammad Ali International Airport, but they're the same one as far as I know. When I looked it up, I found this airport. Okay, so that's how you use GPS coordinates. It's very convenient to find a position if you already have those to go directly to it. By the way, you may have actually put them in though, and it just took you to this. And this is what you saw. You can zoom out and see. But to actually change to satellite, you have to go down to the layers tab and click on that. And then that switches it to satellite mode. Now going back over to where we were here, we're already in 3D mode. Actually, let me just show you how to go get to 3D mode real quick. Okay, so you can click on this here on the right, and that gets you into 3D mode. So if you just click around and like you normally would, like click and drag to move around the map, you just still move on the actual plane, along the plane. But you don't change your yaw or your pitch. If you want to change yaw or pitch, you press the shift button or the control button at the same time as you hold down the click. So actually first press and hold down the shift key and then click the left mouse button, but keep the shift button pressed down, for example. Now if I move the mouse up, it makes it a shallower angle. If I move the mouse down towards me, it's a deeper angle. If I move to the right, see how it's rotating counterclockwise. If I move to the left, with this held down still, like the button, the shift or the control button, and with the left button held down, mouse button, now it's rotating clockwise. So that's how you do that. So going back to this, that was the GPS coordinates. Now this right here is the actual trajectory or the compass direction that we're at in degrees. So we're at 180 degrees would be 180 degrees from 0, right? 0 is north. So you add 180 degrees, it's like rotating and looking south. This angle is actually, this runway is actually at an angle a little bit tipped or angled southeastward instead of southward. So this isn't quite 180 degrees. But if we rotate, for example, like we start to rotate really close to north, but not quite north, it gets close to 360 degrees. See how this number is now closer to 360 right here. So if you look at the UR, that can help you if you get lost. You want to know what direction is. Otherwise, you can just look at this like a compass here on the right side. The red is north. Okay. Anyway, so now I'm just going to go starting here. The plane was taking off, the UPS plane, and somewhere along the line, I guess the engine fell off for some reason, and it started to take off, and it already kind of had a component in this direction, it was already moving in this direction, and it struck the building somewhere on here, but it still started to go up, and then so the slice in this building stopped at about somewhere around here, and then it started to lose altitude here, and so it's going like this. It's part of it, maybe like the wheels, the landing gear hit one of these power lines, and you can see a spark in one of the videos, and then it lost altitude, and then actually the actual body, before that, the wing seems to have came off somewhere. So it might have struck this or something, and the wing might have come off, or the wing like hit a tree. I don't know precisely where the wing came off, but it must have been like really, it's had to be like in this area. So I'm guessing it struck one of these. And then there's a video clip from where somebody is positioned over where my mouse is right here. And you can see it crash and hit the ground right here, the actual body of the plane. That's when there was like a big fireball as it was getting closer to the ground. And it struck the ground somewhere around here. And then it started to veer in this direction, maybe because of, I don't know if it's the angle of like these semis, or it was probably broken up into pieces, and they started to go in this direction. And then the fireball ended somewhere around here. I think it still hit this building too and took this out, but it didn't go much further than this right here. So just to look at this visually on the map, we can actually highlight this like I am. I'm highlighting the coordinates in the URL, Control C, and Control V. And that's this position right here. Somewhere around here is where the fireball stops. So it took off here, skimmed this building, hit the ground at about this point somewhere, and then the stuff just kept going, and like the fuel and parts of the plane eventually stopping here. Okay. Okay, so sorry about the focus change there. That's a little bit annoying. But I'm starting at the perspective of a clip that you've probably seen already if you've seen the news clips. Just gonna copy this. This is an ABC7 clip. Oh, this is something that's not really about the location as much as it is about what they know about the plane and what they think so far, at least in this channel. And he starts to bring up something, about, all the wreckage, not just the wreckage, but also like the junkyard also has a bunch of parts, and how much of a mangled mess that is to find the parts of the plane. It's not like the same as, you can't just get a metal detector out and find just the jet parts, right? That's gotta be complicated. Anyway, just looking at like clips of it taking off and crashing. Okay, so this is a clip that you might have seen of it taking off, and we're looking at it from this perspective. So just zooming out here, we're looking, basically south, even though the runway's at an angle. And we can see it taking off here.
Engine of flight 2976 caught fire moments after takeoff, 7 plane slamming into the ground, the debris field.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna show you this in a little bit, because I looked at different videos, and so we're just gonna leave this off to the side for right now. But this is looking at the debris field of it. Okay, so this is a CNN newscast, and I'm going to show you how we get to that point here. So they started to take off, and actually just moments before that in this, oops, not that one. See this part of the building that's nicked, or it went like this? That's this building here. Okay, now looking at the path that it took from over here. That's as close as I can really get. There's this building right here. In fact, here, I'll just show you. This building here, you can see this in this video clip. That's this building right here. If I just, since this is paused, I can press the greater than or less than buttons, also the comma or period buttons respectively. Right now I'm going back each frame, and each frame is 1/30th of a second. Okay. Oops. So going back to this real quick. We're looking at it like this, but from the ground. I don't know, this doesn't usually happen to me. Oh, wait, that's good. It came back, okay. So we're looking at it from the camera in this area, and it's pointed in this direction. This tree's already been cut down probably like a year earlier, sometime before, sometime after the actual Google Maps view, because I don't want to go back, but there's actually a tree there, and there are these bushes here along the fence, or vines along the fence. So this is what we're looking at. Going each frame here. It's going over that fence. Notice how like the right wing is higher now, and this is like on fire over here. I mean, the field's already spilled out, and the wing has already come off, it looks like. It starts to lose altitude, and it's on its side. And it's starting to really ignite here. All right, I'm just gonna play it regular speed now.
That the plane that in this video
You can see somebody right there.
is not,
Right.
it's not in service for commercial flights, right, David?
Yeah, that's correct, and you were just so fortunate, you look at that fireball, that there wasn't more fatalities on it.
Then this is looking from the same location, but out from outside of, like coming outside of the building and looking. They're going south out of the building. So going out of this building or this one, I think this one right here. I can't go to the street view like in this actual lot, that's why I have to do it this way. But you're gonna see this building again when it goes out. Oops.
Ground. The pilot did a good job of keeping it down and in a safe place.
The pilot must have known what was about to happen and did that, but it's just, as you heard there.
So there's that building right there. You can see the window, the gas meter in that window. Just the ambulance isn't there in this Google Maps driving view in November 2024, a year earlier, and these vines and the tree isn't there.
They're from the governor. We do expect a number.
These tanks, by the way, are right there behind this. So I think it lost its wings somewhere around here, I think. And I'll show you other clips that suggest that from what I've seen so far. And it crashed on the other side of this fence. All right, I'm gonna pause this. Okay, I told you that it lost its wing at some point near those tanks. This is now looking, in a clip, looking northward, and I'll show you where we are. So remember, we were just right, like in this area, looking at that one clip, and there's this building here that I showed you, and there's this fence. This tree isn't there though, and there are these tanks. The wing must have been lost somewhere here, and I'll show you why in the next couple of clips. So going back up, the clip that we're going to look at is on grade lane, but it's from like over here looking this way. So those are the tanks. And we're positioned somewhere about here. This sign is actually, this was back in August of 2025. So like 3 months earlier, if you look at the lower right hand corner there. This is the same location. You can see that these trees match up. There's even a vine on this. That's the vine on this pole. And you can see these trees. The airport tower is right there. You can barely see the airport tower there. This sign is really funny because, or just ironic, are you okay? And it's about an accident and almost all sevens in it. And that's this one. By this point, it's already been stripped, I guess. But I'm gonna go really slow. Actually, we'll go like 0.25x for this video. So you can see that there's a left wing on this at this point, right? It's already skimmed the building that I showed you had like a slice in it in the top. You could see a spark. So if we go frame by frame backwards, pressing the less than symbol, see that green flash right there? So that's like when the landing gear, I guess, hit the power line, it looks like. And I think it hits it again. Okay, I thought there was another flash. Maybe not. Oh yeah, right there. So that could be actually the ignition of the tanks, or one of the tanks or something. I'm not sure, or just the fuel. I'm just going frame by frame here. This is a tire place.
You see a car driving along with the air.
So just going back, because I told you I was going to play 0.25x. Okay, here we go.
Crashing down in Louisville Tuesday. You see a car driving along when the aircraft
And then somebody comes running
down
out here.
fast, slamming into businesses and exploding
So that was that clip from right here. So it was coming down. Like that stuff started to ignite, but by that point it was already over here. There are those tanks back there, and then we're gonna look at the area behind this next. Okay, so I'm gonna pause this so I can get that. Okay, so now we're looking at, we're about to look at this clip. This is looking at the debris field, which we'll look at in just a moment.
This dash cam video.
Okay, so this is looking at this from so the plane's already come, clipped these lines, and it's going over this area. It's already created a fireball. But now looking at it from this perspective, approximately, this is where the semi-driver is. There's a semi-driver, and there's what he sees.
Video shows another angle of
Actually, we'll play it really slow here again.
plane falling from the sky.
So it doesn't look like it has a wing anymore here on its left side, but the right wing is still there. Landing gear is right there.
Leaving
And then this is like when it hits the ground.
plane.
So looking at this, it came down, it hit the ground here and kept going that direction.
The driver running for cover.
There's like another video that's a little bit better. It's a fuller screen, and I'm gonna find that one. I'm just gonna pause this. Okay, I found it. Here it is.
Cam video shows another angle of the plane falling from the sky, leaving a trail of flames.
There it
The
is.
driver running for cover. The plane's black.
Okay, so here's the clip. Now I'm gonna show you where it is here in just a moment, I guess.
The Weather Service, the FBI, and there are more. There have been over 200 first responders that were on the scene last night, and there is a significant amount of
I want to pause this real quick. So going and finding where that is here. So we were just looking at it when it was going this way, it hit the ground, it's going that way. So now we're going to look at it from, so the airport's over there, a little bit further back near Melton Road. This is Melton Road, I think. Yeah, so there's the building, there's like a display sign there, and they're positioned somewhere near here. See that display sign? But we can't quite see that from here. Let's see. This a little further back. There's another clip, or later in this clip you can see it. So, but this sign right here is that sign right there. And there's the power pole. So it came in a crash and it was going that direction.
resources in the search and rescue, and ultimately what is probably by now the recovery effort that is occurring. I want to thank everybody who was working overnight when it was dangerous, when there was other flammable or explosive materials, but they were searching to try to find any and all survivors and to locate any bodies to try to give families the closure that they deserve. As of this time,
Okay, so I want to pause this real quick. Okay, so here's that debris field again. You see this building right here, and this is a road. The plane came from left to right and stopped somewhere around here. This was a building at grade A auto parts recycling. You can see that some of this might have gotten messed up. That semi-driver, the clip where I showed the semi-driver, and there was like the big fireball and it actually hit the ground, and we could see the actual fuselage hit the actual ground when the wing was missing. He was over here. And it just went right across that path. So looking at where that is, the perspective that they used actually has the east at the top, not the north. That's why it was a little bit confusing, at least for me at first when I wanted to find it. So we were just positioned right here, and that's where the semi driver was, where I'm moving the mouse, where it could show the semi driver and also the video cam, like the dash cam. It crashed here and went across here. This building right here looks like it got destroyed, I think. So here we just go back. Yeah, that building is gone. The intersection looks like it kind of, at least there's a sign where the mouse is right now that I'll show you in just a moment, or in one of the next clips. That's still there. It looks like it just went right across here. I'm gonna pause this. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you another clip looking at this from the east. So the runway is over here. It crashed right here, and all the stuff veered this direction as it was moving. And so I'm going to show you where this is. Notice we have a darker top building and then like a wider top building right here. Those are railroad tracks. And then we have those two buildings there. So if we go like this and we turn it like this, it's something like this. Okay, maybe it's more like this. But we still have those other buildings there and the railroad track. Where are those other buildings? Right, oops. There's a better view of those buildings. So the fire is right here. That's like right across this area here. Then it like stopped somewhere around here. It clipped this building, which I'm going to show you in a little bit better view of that in one of the clips where they get closer to it. All right, I'm going to pause this. Okay, so here's that building. I'm going to show you the building from Google Maps. So this is where you just were. So rotating and looking approximately southeast or so. Whoops. There we go, there's the runway. So we're looking at this really close to the end of the runway, somewhere above the airport. We're looking at this building right here. Notice that there's like an object there that is this one right here. And that there is this. Oh. The emergency vehicles. I'm trying to change the angle, make it like more like this, but it's not perfect, I guess, on Google Maps. Okay, so that's where the fire is. You can clearly see that this line of this goes towards that.
Those families may not line up with the hospital patients, which means
So clearly it struck the building. Part of it struck the building here and got part of the way through the building. There's some kind of rubble on top of the building. Looks kind of flat, probably part of the roof. I'm not sure what it looks like inside of that building. It'd be interesting to see if they have like footage from inside the building eventually. If they ever, I don't know, maybe they'll be able to do that.
we've got to continue to search that site, hope and pray for the best. But
And that's like right here at this point. notice this line right here on the building. That's this line right here. And there's only one, this is the first indentation that you can see. If we were to go back, there aren't any other indentation. There's one right here too though, which is this one right here.
We've got to continue to search that site, hope and pray for the best, but know there may be more loss of life.
I haven't seen much
we're
of the
going to learn
news
about
about this
today.
part right here.
2 businesses were directly impacted:
like
Kentucky
talking
Petroleum
about
Recycling and Grade A Auto Parts.
So he's listing some places that were affected. but
Thankfully, a local restaurant.
Those are a little further away from the airport though. I don't know which might have made sense because they didn't want a bunch of people at the airport. But if you look at what this is UPS Supply Chain Solutions. That's 6700 grade plane. If you look at the sign here, you can see it. See if I can get a little. Oh. So now we're in December 2022. I'm trying to get to August of 2025. Dang. Okay, here we go. But we gotta go one click in this direction because it's not very clear in the other images. Okay, UPS Supply Chain Solutions. We go over here and try to look at it. It's not clear. It's like hard to read. And this is like duplicated. I don't know why that happens sometimes. So some of this is duplicated on the sign. All right, so that's, I'm not quite done yet. I'm gonna show you a couple more things. I'm gonna pause this real quick. Actually, before I continue though, I wanna point out that there are some really lucky people in this area because, I mean, when it took off, it could have ended up crashing right into this building. And I don't know if, like, the way that they handled it was a way that was a little more risky, and they went to their left, like over here. I think I heard them talking about it when we were looking at a clip from this area over here by Kentucky Truck Parts and Service, or Service and Parts. But instead of ramming into these buildings here, they went to the left here and crashed. So, I mean, sure, there are a lot of semi-trucks, but if it would crash into this building, if it had hit like lower or something like that, I suppose they probably would want to take off though. But if they would have, not gone to the left or something, they could have hit some of these other buildings. But if you look at this though, like, I mean, if it didn't happen exactly like that and they didn't go to the left or something like that, I mean, if they would have hit this building, I mean, how many people would have been killed? Also, we have another distribution center. This is, I think, a logistics company. There's also a logistics company here. Even just like a plane having some kind of other failure or going to the right, they could hit any of these logistics distribution buildings. But this happens to also be UPS Express Critical. If a crash took place still along this line from the runway, for example, there are other UPS buildings here too. Yes, UPS Supply Chain Solutions also. Advantix, Specialty Pharmacy. More supply chain buildings along this line with UPS. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to show you another couple clips. Oh, before I keep going, actually, I just remembered something. So, like in the clip, I think the CNN clip. Let's see. Yeah, this clip. He was talking about some of the places that could have been hit. I think he's talking about if it had taken off from this runway over here. There are other places. A lot of green roofs actually over here. Kentucky Exposition Center. this area. So I mean, that's probably kind of smart to actually do, because this is in the southern part of Louisville. And if people thought that it came off this runway, they'd go over here instead of congest this area here, which isn't stupid to do, because the first responders have to get there. Okay, so I'm going to pause this and find another clip. Okay, so here's another clip.
In fact, what we've done is we've gone and amended the Team Kentucky Storm.
So notice this building. If we go back.
In fact, what we've done
There we go. This building right here, I'm going to show you where that is. So going back to the airport, the runway. If we rotate this. Believe it or not, I don't know, it takes me some time to find these. And I've been doing this a lot, like looking at Google Maps and finding things. So I can imagine it takes a long time for a lot of other people. But this building right here is the one. You can't see these tanks because there's fire here. Like the fuel that spilled off of it probably after it struck the building or something. I don't know if it spilled over there, but by the time it crossed this road, it already spilled a bunch, and it clipped the lines and hit here and ignited, and then went, got the whole area. That's what we're looking at right here. So those tanks, I think you can barely maybe see. I don't know if that's smoke or the tanks, but there's that building at least right there. Ooh. That's this building here.
As we've gone and amended the Team Kentucky Storm Relief Fund to now allow families impacted by a disaster like this to also benefit from the generosity of Kentuckians. Remember, the first thing that we pay for out of these funds are funerals, so that in a time of grief, nobody is worried about that. In Kentucky, we grieve together and we support one another. Donations will help pay for funerals and for response, recovery, and rebuilding.
Okay, so I'm going to pause this and we'll find another clip. Okay, so now we're looking at a clip from a different angle now. So this is along the axis of the crash. This is what we were looking at before. So now we're looking at it like something like this. Let's see. That building right there stands out pretty well, as this building right here. And you can see these rows of junk here in the junkyard or recycling there. So it looks like these buildings got toasted here. You see these buildings right here, like 4 of them in a row or 3 of them in a row. That's these right here, I think.
For people, but it really didn't go very
So this building right here, yeah, that's this building right here with this sign.
far. Wolf, they probably.
Okay, so now we have a different perspective on this. So going over here is what we're actually looking at. But in order for you to see some of this, like this sign and like this sign right here, these are firemen right here. We have to go to the street view. So if you go to street view, you can see this sign at Melton and Ave, and you can see this no outlet sign right here. And I think this might be one of the buildings that we can see right here that's burning. I don't know. Oh, also there's this building right here, down here, which is right here, I think. that sign there is, I think this sign right here.
They started not using it. It wasn't as efficient as they projected it would be, so it was replaced with newer technologies pretty quickly. I think the last passenger flight was held on this airplane was in.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause this real quick. Okay, here's like another clip.
Fireball right in the center of our facility.
This is looking at it from the west. Clearly you can see because the smoke's been blowing from like the southeast.
Her initial thought was.
So you look at these buildings, so where is that? That's actually looking at this from the other perspective. Right by one of the last places that it hit, right there. Grade A auto parts pickup. Okay, so we can see this actually in this, and then that building and that building there. Obviously this one stands out pretty well, but also since I did a lot of research on where streetlights were, this is a streetlight right here that's flat, hanging off of this, extending from this pole. You can see the yellow colors too, marking these. And that's this streetlight here. Those are the yellow markings there. So I mean, there's this building, it looks like it got burned up eventually, like in those later ones, looking down earlier.
Was that our facility had exploded.
And what's heartbreaking about this is that business owner tells us he has 3 and.
So just also looking at this, yeah, that's these buildings right here.
Employees that are unaccounted for, they're missing. So he's understandably in a desperate situation right now, trying to figure out what happened to them. But
And this is probably somewhere from the northeast of that site, or east of it. But I'm gonna pause this real quick. All right, so I got through all the clips that I was gonna show you on here. And these are some of the links. And that's really all I wanted to talk about. Here I was just mostly focused on the location because I know how difficult it could be for people to find them on Google Maps. It takes a lot of time to look around and stuff. So that's it.